We're a little nervous about the consequences of coming out, but I think we kind of have set this path. We've already determined that this is what we're going to do.
Hello everyone, today we are talking about becoming sister wives, and we're talking about the epilogue. So we are finally at the very end of the book. It took me a long time, guys, to get those videos out, but I did it. I wasn't going to do a video just about the epilogue, but I decided to because I felt like I needed to give Kody his moment. He doesn't write a lot in this book, but he did write the prologue, the epilogue, and he wrote a little bit throughout chapter 1 or part 1 of the book because he was writing about meeting the wives. But it's really the beginning and the end of the book where we get some of Kody's perspective. So I decided to make a video just about this part.
The fundamentalist Mormon community and the polygamists have become secretive. And so to be transparent, I believe, makes us more safe to them.
Kody starts out by saying that he just wanted to make the world a better place for polygamists. He says the decision to be on the show was one that he took seriously, and he was very careful when he considered what the risks were and what the outcome may be. And in the end of it all, he feels like the benefits have far outweighed the cost. Of course, that was what he said when this book was published back in 2012. I do wonder if he still agrees with that now. I think his opinion may change if he really took the time to reflect on what this whole experience was like for him and his family. But again, I say this in a lot of videos, Kody is not good at self-reflection, so I doubt he would even realize what role he played in all of this and what role the show played in it, because I think for him, as much as he wants to say it was because he wanted to help polygamists, I think some of it was because he wanted to help his bank account. He talks about the move to Vegas, and he says when he got there, he felt like he had moved to a world of opportunity, and he felt an overwhelming peace and tranquility. But he admits the move was difficult. They had to make sacrifices. They gave up their careers, their church, their friends, and family when they made that move. And during the move itself, Kody says he felt very bitter about the whole experience. And by whole experience, he is referring to the show, becoming public polygamist, and the move they are having to make. He talks quite a bit about this move because at the time of writing this book, they were still living in Vegas, so all of this was really recent. And as fans of the show, we know that the move came as a response to hearing about the family being investigated by the police department in Lehigh. Kody says they made this move because he no longer felt safe in that community after hearing that they were being investigated. He writes about this move being really hard on the kids, and I want you to listen to what he says. In the book, Kody writes, "It wasn't pretty, but we figured the collateral damage of our children's emotions was a small thing compared to some of the trouble and attitudes we were experiencing as a family in Utah." I wonder how they all feel about this statement now. I think they truly underestimated how difficult this move was for the teenagers. Their lives were completely changed by being on the show, and then the show makes them have to move away from their home and their friends and their school and their extended family. I just think they underestimated how difficult it was for them, and I have always questioned how much of that was exaggerated for the show. And I'm referring to the investigation and all of the drama that they seem to have surrounding that move. And I understand that they had fears based on stories they had heard from older polygamists. But I also know that reality TV will hype anything up that they can, and they will edit it to make it look more dramatic. So I just wonder how much of it was real. Specifically when you look back at those moments where they would hear police sirens and then act really dramatic. I'm like, are you serious? Like, is that serious? To me, it almost seems funny. But again, that's just my opinion. You guys can let me know in the comments what you thought about all of that. Do you think that move to Vegas was actually necessary? Do you think Kody could have possibly, I think he could have possibly been arrested, but do you think it was really going to happen? So he moves on from talking about the move itself and actually goes on to talk about their arrival to Vegas. They rented a home that they all shared. And remember, back in Lehigh, even though they were in the same house, they had their own spaces. And then Robin wasn't in that home. So when they got to Vegas, they were all living together. So this was pushing the family back together in a tighter space, sharing a kitchen. No one had their own rooms. This was a really stressful time. So they decided they had two priorities. One of them was to get new homes, and the other one was to get the kids in school. They had found a high school they really liked for the kids, but in order for the kids to go there, they had to make sure the homes were in that school district. And for the next part, I'm going to read directly from the book so you guys can hear what Kody wrote. We decided, for the sake of Robin's children, who weren't as used to living in such a big family and who had already moved so often in the previous 2 years, that we should find her a home first. Of course, I have some opinions about this. From my perspective, this was a great time for Robin's kids to get used to living with the other children. And all of the kids were struggling. The older Brown children were probably the ones that were struggling the most based on what we saw in the show and what I've read in the book. And based on what I've read in the book and saw in the show, Mary was the most difficult to live with. She struggled with sharing space and with children being rambunctious in her home. So it would seem that Mary was the one who would be the first out of the house. She was also the one who only had one child. And according to Kody, Leon struggled with the move and was incredibly upset that they were moving from Utah. So Mary doesn't want to have a bunch of children running around. Leon's really upset about the move, and they are also the smallest family unit in the Brown family. So why didn't they look for a house for Mary first? I'm just surprised that Robin and her children became the priority when it sounds like there were so many other struggles for so many other people in the Brown family. The move to Vegas was a pivotal event for the Browns. Even though they briefly lived together, they ultimately moved into separate homes, and they spent less time together than ever. Kody writes about it in the book. He says their family culture was eroding, and he had a friend that compared it to the Browns going through a divorce. The teens and adults were really struggling with the move. According to the book, only the elementary school-age children were doing well. Hunter specifically had a difficult time. He refused to play football, which is something he loved to do back in Utah, and he also refused to make friends. So in all of this writing about the move, Kody reflects on what it had been like leading up to this. And he said something that I thought was sort of funny. This is what he writes in the book. During the 16 years before Robin came into the family, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and I had a lot of growing to do. In the last 5 years before Robin entered the family, we really found a comfortable groove. We were stable and generally happy. The children were well adjusted and very happy. Something was missing, though. He goes on to point out that the relationships he had with each wife weren't ideal, and neither were the relationships that they had with each other. So in Kody's world, there's something missing. And he doesn't outright say it, but you get the feeling that he's talking about Robin. I mean, for most people, if their relationship wasn't doing well, they would consider going to counseling or trying to spend more time together. But for Kody, it sounds like it was Robin. Kody goes on to say that when it came to Mary, Janelle, and Christine, they didn't communicate well. They weren't always nice to each other. Sometimes they would be defensive. And this all leads right up to him courting Robin. He says that the wives embraced Robin with open arms and open hearts, but within a month of the engagement, everyone began to struggle. Kody writes that he had always rejected any form of marriage counseling. So he had said no to marriage counseling when he was with Christine, Janelle, and Mary. No marriage counseling. But we know from the book that when he began to court Robin, they all began going to counseling. So it took Robin, the missing link, to get Kody to go to marriage counseling. He doesn't outright say that, but that's what it sounds like to me. But of course, you guys can let me know in the comments what you think. Kody moves on to talking about how they needed to find work when they got to Vegas. And so they set out to try to find businesses they could do as a family. And he specifically talks about them starting a fitness center. He says that they had all began to go on a fitness journey and it was really good for the whole family. He actually refers to it as magic. He says magic happened when all of the wives started training with a fitness coach. He says this project brought the family together and even engaged the kids. According to Kody, this turned everyone around. Aspen and McKelty began loving their life in Vegas. Madison made lots of friends. Hunter joined the football team. Logan started wrestling. He even goes on to say all of the other kids were doing well, and now they had all adjusted to Vegas. Kody goes on to talk about some of the mushy and inspirational stuff they often talk about throughout the book. He says he wants to be the best husband he can be, the best father he can be. He wants to try to be the best person and best citizen of this earth that he can be, and he will do it all by confronting his weaknesses and overcoming obstacles. He ends the chapter by making it clear that he is not being hedonistic. He is not doing this because it's fun and games. For him, polygamy is hard work, and he works his tail off for his family, and he does it for his faith and for love. So that's it, you guys. That is how Kody ends the book Becoming Sister Wives. Of course, we know they are not running a fitness empire now, so clearly that did not take off for them the way Kody thought it would. I mean, he called it magic, you guys. Based on how the chapter ended, if you didn't know any better, you would have thought they just pursued a fitness business. But, of course we know that didn't happen. You guys can let me know down in the comments what you thought about the ending of this book. I'm going to do one more video where I just kind of sum up what I thought about it, some of the things I thought were interesting. But that's it. We finally got through Becoming Sister Wives. If you've stuck with me, thank you. Man, it took way longer than I had intended for it to. But life happens, right? But thank you if you're still here and if you're still listening and following along. If you haven't already, I hope you'll click like and subscribe. I appreciate all of the support that this little channel gets, and I hope you'll come back to Happily Ever Reality.